Let's start, Mike, with the Under Armour Future 50 event. Give us a little detail on what this event is and who did you cover?
Yeah, so it is a pretty cool annual event, Darren, where it's prospects in the rising junior class. So they just finished up their sophomore years of high school, and they're going into their junior year. And there's, yeah, as the name states, 50 prospects, top players around the country. And there was a media day on Friday where we got to interview those players, and then the actual camp with like a 7-on-7 and a big men challenge took place on Saturday. And a couple kind of takeaways for me is there. I mean, these are elite recruits. These are all like top 100, top 50 type recruits. And I've been covering recruiting for a dozen years, and half of those years on the Notre Dame beat. 6 years covering once. I've covered Notre Dame for a little while now, and I've been to so many of these types of events. This is the most I've been at one of these types of camps and heard this. Like, that was the most buzz I've heard about Notre Dame, especially with the defensive backs. Mike Mickens, the development. I hear that with every single DB. The development. Leonard Moore, Ben Morrison. They are absolutely raving about Mike Mickens. And then Mickens' assistant, Javon Codlin, has like an analyst role, but he works with the DBs, coaching and recruiting. He's doing a tremendous job. So that was a big takeaway for me, is like, man, Notre Dame's upward trend of defensive back recruiting is not slowing down. Like, we know this 2026 class, Notre Dame's got outstanding defensive backs committed. And I don't think they're done yet either. And it's not slowing down. The 2027 class has got all of the same potential. And then the other prospect I want to talk about is Julius Jones, elite wide receiver. He was On3's MVP from the event. If the name sounds familiar, Julius Jones, where do I know that name? His dad was a decent running back for the Irish a couple decades ago, and he's got a son, Julius Jones Jr. Of course, he was a very good running back. I was joking there, but yeah, Julius Jones, a wide receiver in the 2027 class, the number 34 overall player, number 5 wide receiver according to the On3 industry ranking, was dominant. And yeah, like I said, MVP of the event. Notre Dame, Oregon, the Florida schools. It's going to be quite a battle for the Irish to land Jones, but he was just silky smooth working out of the slot. Caught like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Again, was pretty much a consensus MVP by everyone who watched the event. And he hasn't visited Notre Dame as a recruit just yet. I actually didn't ask him if he had been to Notre Dame growing up or anything, but he told me he went to the Notre Dame Miami game and several years ago, an outcome that did not go well for the Irish in South Florida. But he was also at the Notre Dame Penn State game earlier this year and was rooting hard for the Fighting Irish in the Orange Bowl. So that was pretty cool. So he's seen Notre Dame play recently, and he does plan to see Notre Dame versus Texas A&M in South Bend this fall. So it's early for Julius Jones and his recruitment. Notre Dame is a big offer, big contender for him moving forward. He told me that the Irish will be a top school for him when he decides sometime around this time next year. And yeah, he said that Notre Dame offer pulled on his heartstrings. So, when he grew up watching college football, it was Notre Dame. Like, that was the team he watched. So I think that Notre Dame's got a good shot for Jones, but it's definitely early on in the recruitment.
Mike, what type of progress are the Irish making in the class of 27?
Yeah, it's early, obviously, but the Irish landed a 5-star long snapper in late June. The Irish picking up Sean Kraft from North Carolina, had several other scholarship offers. And yeah, so Notre Dame on the board with their first commit, a long snapper. So Darren, if I would have told you a month ago Notre Dame's first commitments are going to be from a long snapper and a big time linebacker from Mobile, Alabama, you would have said, Mike, what are you talking about? Like, no, they're not. And yeah, that's what happened. So Ellis McGaskin committed to Notre Dame on the last day of June, picking the Irish over Florida State, LSU, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Michigan, Ohio State, South Carolina, Oregon, Miami. The list goes on and on. So yeah, this was a big time get for Notre Dame going. Yeah, again, Mobile, Alabama. So McGaskin, 5'11 and a half, 210 pounds, the number 188 overall player, number 10 linebacker, according to the On3 industry ranking. And yeah, he was at Notre Dame's Irish Invasion camp in June. And, Marcus Freeman worked closely with that group. He was hands on coaching, working with Max Bola, and McGaskin was definitely a top performer at that event. And he called up the Notre Dame staff, I want to say last Thursday or Friday, and committed, and definitely surprised Notre Dame. Not that he ended up committing because they felt like he had a tremendous visit, but this early in the process, I think did surprise. So look, it's a commitment from the deep South very early on. Sometimes this doesn't work well for the Irish at the end, and the kid decommits. But I don't know. We'll see. You'd rather the kid rather the kid commit, and than not. So we'll see where it goes from here. But from my interview with him about his commitment before he announced it, seemed pretty promising that it would stick. But yeah, 18 months or so from signing day. But regardless, really nice pickup for Notre Dame. This kid's a really good talent.
This has to be the greatest recruiting cycle ever for a program that the previous year lost to Northern Illinois. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Right.
That trip to the title game has just sparked everything.
Glad you said this. I want to pop this on the screen for folks watching on YouTube. This is a tweet I had the other day. I think so. So the way that like On3, which On3 bought Rivals, and from the national landscape, the recruiting division of On3 is now called Rivals. So it's gonna take some getting used to. But so the class score, this I tweeted this out June 26th. So some of this has kind of changed. Things shift daily with these recruiting rankings and class scores and all this stuff. But at the time I tweeted it, Notre Dame had a class score of 92.84. Maybe that's an arbitrary number, but 92 out of 100, that sounds pretty good, right? 92.84. Notre Dame's best recruiting class in the modern internet era, going back to 2004 when these recruiting websites started doing the team rankings. 2013 was Notre Dame's best class. That had a score of 92.74. Notre Dame's score as of June 26 was 92.84. That would be Notre Dame's best class in the internet era.
Wow.
10 of Notre Dame's 22 commitments ranking as top 150 overall players. Just think about it, Darren. In years past, Notre Dame had hovered around a 50% blue chip ratio, which means 50% of Notre Dame's class ranks as a 4 or 5 star. Nearly half of their commits are not just 4 stars, which is like a top 350, top 400 player, top 150, 10 of 22 ranking as top 150 players. This is Notre Dame might end up with like 4 or 5 stars. They could. They already have 2. Dunham's an On3 5 Rivals 5 star, whatever. Dunham's a 5-star. Joey O'Brien has a 5-star ranking by 247. I think Kari Adams, the elite DB from Baltimore, might be a 5-star. Ian Premer, the surprising tight end commitment that Notre Dame got last week. A lot of people didn't see Premer committing to the Irish with Kansas. Kansas State writers were picking Premer to Kansas State the day of his commitment. He picks the Irish. I think he could be a 5-star. He's close to being one by On3 right now. There may be another that I'm forgetting that's close. Ebenezer Uatade is like a top 30 player by On3 right now. The impressive pass rusher from North Carolina. And then my wild card is Grayson McHugh, the offensive tackle from Pennsylvania. I think it's for the past 4 recruiting cycles, Darren, Notre Dame has had a player on the offensive line, or commit from the offensive line, go from a 4 to a 5-star. I don't know if it's a trend or if it's just coincidence, we'll call it the Notre Dame bump. I don't know. But if there's going to be a Notre Dame offensive line commit to go from a 4 to a 5, I think it would be Grayson McHugh, who's kind of got like a Joe Alt. I hate just throwing out Joe Alt. It's really not a lazy comparison with his high school trajectory, going from like a tight end defensive end to non offensive tackle. Grayson McHugh, could have that kind of rise. I know talking to the rankings guys at On3/Rivals, they're absolutely raving about him. And I think On3 has McHugh ranked as like the number 15 or 17 offensive tackle in the country. Don't be surprised if he shoots into the top 10 of those position rankings.